Hey, welcome back, MobilityWOD. Making some dinner. Brian McKenzie in the kitchen cooking. We're talking about some of the things that we saw today at the clinic. And one of the things that we saw was this kid who came in, double ACL surgery. He's been 18 months out, kind of a heinous experience. And now he's like, hey, look, I've been cleared from physical therapy. I'm medically stable. What do I do next? And I realized that I probably needed to put up the template of how I solve these problems about kind of rebuilding athletes after injury, rebuilding athletes after surgery. Now, a few weeks ago, we put up a video called Movement Hierarchy. And we were talking about how to categorize movements. And this kind of category one movement, this level one movement is where we go from a position of high stability with connection to another position of high stability. And then we talked about the different ways that we could start to make that more difficult by kind of increasing the upright demands of the torso, going from a back squat more to a front squat, more than to an overhead squat where the demand's really high, and start to challenge knee and hip position. Because this guy's got an ACL, we're watching about is we're trying to minimize shear across the knee, and we're getting him to start to load. So we're trying to keep a vertical shin. So what I typically do is once we've got an athlete who can sustain position is okay. Hey guys, gotta be quiet for a second. Position is okay. He's got a good template for working on tissues. He knows what's tight. He knows how to manage that, right? So he's got a good idea about the motor control. Now we can start to systematically add. And the first thing that we go after is that I go after load. And now I want to systematically start to challenge these tissues. And the most effective way to do that is to put this guy on what we call a basic linear progression. Basic linear progression. There is plenty of information in the world about this, but I like a progression that lasts 2+ weeks for at least 2 movements. 2 movements. And what we're after here, and for this athlete, chose squat and deadlift. We're going to get him starting. Today we had him deadlift a whopping 55 pounds. Tomorrow, after we're deadlifting 55 today, and here's the key. First piece is we add load. And so I'm thinking 3 by 5. So 3 sets of 5 reps, right? So I've got him thinking 55 pounds. Tomorrow will be 65 pounds, then 75 pounds. I'll take 5 and 10 pound jumps. Lasts about 2 weeks for a basic linear wave. I've got him 3 sets of 5 for a couple movements. 5, probably 3 to 5 days a week, where I want him to squat and deadlift both. Then what will end up happening now is once he starts to wave up, kind of peaks out, instead of just dropping down to 80% and starting again, what we'll do is we'll drop him down to 80% and we'll add some more volume. So first is position and tissue, then load, then I go for volume. So then we're thinking 5 by 5 sets of 5 reps for some of this basic. Put them back on a linear progression, and now I'm into 3 or 4 weeks of consistent training where I'm going from a position of high stability, well connected, well stabilized, where my athlete feels stable. We can really work on the connection, work on the motor control, challenge the positions of vertical shin without kind of challenging knee forwardness, for example. So this gives you a basic template, whether it's shoulder, whether it's back, whether it's knee or hip. What we want to do is keep the athletes connected, not start to add the 4th element until I've had some time under some load and I've had some time under some volume. And that 4th element is speed. So I'll usually add speed last. Now we start introducing depth drops, running ends up being one of the pieces in there, jumping up and down from a box, power cleans, that sort of thing ends up being the last element that I'll add once we've had this motor control. Now Brian and I were talking earlier, and one of the reasons we feel like we've got to get injured athletes under some load and even endurance athletes under load is that those loaded positions teach the motor control better than the other way. So by getting someone under loading, forcing them to stabilize, forcing them to create torque and find better positions, we find we get a much better learning environment. Now take a look. I've got all of this going on, position and tissue, load, volume, then speed, using the basic template for linear progression to do this. Then I can always take a position and challenge it with cardiorespiratory demand. So I can make the athlete breathe hard and start to challenge. I can add that with some metabolic volume. A little bit of metabolic demand. What happens at 20 reps, 30 reps, right? We can make it a contest. We can add stress to this whole beast. And suddenly I have a really nice creative template to start to integrate athletes back into training and start to kind of work them through position, tissue, load, volume, speed, and then being able to challenge those things on these different bands. So this is how we solve it in between courses making dinner. See you guys tomorrow.